Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Thank you for joining us. We got a lot to cover this morning. Of course, I'm going to fill you in on yesterday's blast. We had a great time at the Salvation Army benefit picnic. I'm going to tell you all about that. Show a couple pictures. I wasn't as good taking photos as I would have liked to, but we got kind of busy selling raffles and eating great food by Corning Catering. So we'll tell you all about that. A little bit later on, we'll be talking with Kelly Mormon with the Finger Lakes VA, the Bath VA, about Suicide Awareness Month or Suicide Prevention Month here in September. Got a couple other things we're going to be talking about as well. First, as an update to a story that I brought to you, I want to say 2 weeks ago, and that was video of those armed gang members, illegal immigrants, roaming the halls of that apartment complex. Well, a Colorado landlord has agreed to sell a troubled apartment complex that was taken over by the violent Venezuelan migrant gang called Tren de Aragua, which is probably not how you pronounce it. Landlord Zev Baumgarten has been fighting with the Denver suburb of Aurora over the apartment complex. Baumgarten is also the owner of another apartment complex. That's where the viral video showed a crew of gun-toting thugs breaking into a unit. Now, the one he's actually getting rid of is nearly as bad, just no videos of the armed gangs, but it has become, as it says here, a trash-ridden, gang-infested heckhole. Baumgarten's company has now agreed to sell, lease, or find some similar disposition for the complex, which was shuttered back in August, displacing over 300 residents, is what the Gazette is reporting. His company, Gnome Partners LLC, must also pay to clean up the site. Baumgarten's company blames a takeover by the gang for the dismal state of Aspen Grove. One investor told the Daily Post that police had known about the gang problem at Aspen Grove for nearly a year. The investor said the situation got so bad that staff abandoned the site, allowing trash to pile up and the building to go into ruin. Now, the city has finally deemed that gang a criminal nuisance, and they decided to evict the residents of the apartment complex. Now, Baumgarten has found himself facing more than 80 charges for building code violations, ranging from vermin, infestation to power outages. Though he puts the blame on gangs, prosecutors pointed out that a second Baumgarten-owned complex, which was shuttered in August, had code violations dating back to 2020. All right. That was just a quick update to a story that we had for you a few weeks ago. We've got so much here about the Harris campaign, about the Trump campaign. A couple things, not too much, but a couple things here about Biden. We're also going to talk about some New York State issues as well. The Afghanistan withdrawal is front and center this morning as House Republicans and Democrats are going to issue dueling documents casting blame for mistakes made in the U.S. withdrawal. I see that Kamala Harris, and we may get to that in a second, she's trying to blame Trump for a withdrawal that happened under her and Biden's watch. And I saw a banner on the news this morning saying that the Republicans found no connection to Harris with the withdrawal, the decision to withdraw. Is that a good thing? I mean, don't you want your vice president making some decisions? Or being a part of the conversation? We were told she was a part of the conversation. Well, Republicans and Democrats will release dueling documents on the deadly August 2021 U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan that is coming out today. As former President Trump's campaign seeks to make the decisions surrounding the exit a key in the final weeks before the presidential election. Now, according to an early report, that Biden was hell-bent on leaving Afghanistan, ignoring military advice and NATO objections and even Afghan pleas. That's according to the House report. President Biden was so hell-bent on getting out of Afghanistan that he rebuked any advice to the contrary, ignored the pleas of the Afghan government, and disregarded objections from U.S. allies. That was one of the key takeaways from the House Foreign Affairs Committee, more than 2-year investigation into America's chaotic and deadly Afghanistan withdrawal. Quote, during his decades-long tenure as a Delaware U.S. Senator, 8 years as Vice President of the United States, and nearly 4 years as President, Mr. Biden has demonstrated distrust of America's military experts and advisors and has prioritized politics and his personal legacy over America's national security interests. The report, and it's a 350-page report, notes, his administration consistently lied to and misled the American public to try to convince them to support his consequences be damned view that the U.S. should swiftly end its 20-year war in Afghanistan, the review said. Former President Trump's administration had previously created and entered into the Doha Agreement with the Afghan government and the Taliban to end the U.S. war in Afghanistan, but Biden forged ahead with little deference to the terms of the agreement, no matter the cost, though he would later blame the same document for forcing his hand. The Doha Agreement, formed in 2020, held the U.S. would withdraw its troops from Afghanistan if the Taliban met certain criteria. For example, the terrorist group was responsible for cutting ties with al-Qaeda and other terrorist organizations, ceasing attacks on U.S. and coalition troops, reducing violence against Afghan forces, and starting negotiations with the Afghan government. But Biden's reckless, blind determination pushed aside the agreement's critical details, is what the document is reporting. I don't want to get too much into it. You'll hear plenty about it. But it's important to know as Kamala Harris is blaming Trump for the Afghanistan withdrawal, which happened again under her watch. It's amazing. I heard her say something to the extent we can't go back. And it's just so weird to hear someone that's literally in the White House right now say we can't go back. For 3.5 years she's been there. It's just like when she says she's going to do something on day one, and you wonder why it hadn't been done yet. Now, this comes on the back of course, that the controversy over the visit to Arlington. But when you talk about this disastrous release that just is heartbreaking with the loss of lives and the equipment and munitions that we left there, all because Biden was set and determined that he was going to withdraw. It comes as no surprise then that Iran is now giving Russia more missiles, proving again that the U.S. enemies laugh at the Biden-Harris administration. Well, why wouldn't they? With the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal, I believe it's ultimately what led to Russia invading Ukraine. Here's fresh proof America's enemies laugh at President Biden, and they'll do the same to his understudy, Kamala Harris, should she win the top job. Iran has now sent hundreds of short-range ballistic missiles to Russia. That's according to the Wall Street Journal. The export, on top of thousands of drones from Iran and missiles from North Korea, will help Moscow level civilian areas across Ukraine as Washington refuses to let Kiev use Western gifted weapons against the airfields that launched those attacks or nearly any other military targets inside Russia. And Iran's done And let me try this again. And Iran's done it in defiance of repeated U.S. and European threats going back months. Understandable, Biden-Harris keeps saying don't and doing nothing when the other side does. Yes, and you follow this enough, but that's Biden's big line. I tell them don't. That holds whether it's Joe telling Vladimir Putin don't in advance of his invasion of Ukraine, or Kamala telling Central Americans don't when it comes to illegally jumping the U.S. border. Harris is afraid to face the U.S. media, for heaven's sakes, in a real press conference. Why would Putin or anyone else think she'd have the guts to confront real enemies? Yes, she does not even have the guts to go for a press conference. They're already, have you noticed too, they're already downplaying her debate performance. Now remember, there's only one debate scheduled. So they're already setting the bar very low so that she'll hit it out of the park if she just does, an acceptable job. And yeah, as far as the schedule, as far as the calendar goes, that's the only time that we are aware of that Harris will be, quote unquote, unscripted, where she'll be speaking off the cuff. It's amazing. Continuing, and she'll inherit the same advisors that enabled Biden's woeful weakness. If she chooses new ones, her record as a California liberal tells us she'll be even more dovish. As it stands, the Biden-Harris team is loath to slap Iran or push the Europeans to, because it imagines Tehran might escalate the Mideast crisis if we're mean to them. Yeah, they don't want to do anything before the November election that would ruffle any feathers. Plus, Iran's new powerless president is thought to be a moderate, and the Democrat brain trust fears undermining the new president before he can somehow do something to pull the regime's teeth. As if any of the several other moderates installed in that puppet position over the last 6 decades ever made a lick of difference. And if Tehran wasn't actually afraid of Mideast escalation, its entire strategy is to bleed Israel with attacks by its various proxies across the region, while avoiding giving Jerusalem a clear pretext to launch direct attacks on Iran. The New York Times crackpot analysis, meanwhile, speculated President Biden's lame duck status could hamper a response, which we guess means Joe's still too busy sulking about getting forced to drop his re-election bid to do his job. Yes, he was on the beach yet again. Now that he hasn't been lame on national security for his first day in his first day in the Oval Office, when he began opening the borders, planning his disastrous Afghanistan bug out, and ending Trump-era sanctions on Iran. Oh, and appeasing Putin, too, who's evaded some other nation under every U.S. president this century except Donald Trump. So that's why we point to the peace and prosperity that the media really refuses to talk about. It was President Barack Obama who put U.S. appeasement of the Tehran regime into high gear, even before his noxious nuclear accord. Trump axed that deal and had the Iranian economy on its knees until Biden took over and went back to making nice. Harris, with her total lack of foreign experience beyond showing up for photo ops, certainly won't abandon the Obama-Biden playbook. And Tim Walz, her perfectly progressive choice for vice president, quit the National Guard rather than deploy to a war zone. So if you want to keep seeing America humiliated, its friends betrayed, and its enemies gaining, vote Harris Walz, writes the New York Post. Okay. We got to take our first break. I see a lot of comments coming in, a lot of waves. Thank you very much. We'll get to those when we come back. Stay with us. We're just getting started on this Monday morning edition of Frankly Speaking. Yes, I will have updates on yesterday's picnic. I'll show you some pictures a little bit later on. So stay with us.
Hesselson Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hesselson's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hesselson today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's Hot Spring saltwater hot tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Race car drivers change lanes very fast, but with no outside mirrors. How come they don't crash? Introducing Angel View, the new wide-angle mirror that reduces blind spots. And now may be your last chance to get one before they're gone. Angel View simply snaps over your car's rear view mirror, giving you a 160-degree view behind you. Look, ordinary rear view mirrors are small and flat, but Angel View has a huge mirror with curved glass. This convex shape allows you to see both blind spots with one glance. Here's what you see with that ordinary rear view mirror, and here's what you see with Angel View. Look, over 800,000 blind spot accidents occur each year. You think you're clear to change lanes, but you're not. And that's why they call it a blind spot. But Angel View's crystal clear mirror gives you perfect panoramic vision without that awful fisheye effect like other little mirrors. And with our Pro Edition special coating, it's anti-glare at night. Angel View installs in seconds to virtually any car or SUV. And the spring-loaded rubber feet automatically adjust to hold on tight. From a senior driver to a first-time teen, and everyone in between. With Angel View, you see them. Without it, you won't. Get your Angel View now for just $19.99 through this special offer. But wait, there's breaking news. Angel View may be discontinued. Due to rising costs and supply chain shortages, Angel View is stopping manufacturing effective immediately. There is a strict limit of 3 Angel Views per order while supplies last. Once the current inventory is gone, it's gone forever. Order now.
Call 1-800-897-0593. That's 1-800-897-0593 or visit getangelview.com. So call 1-800-897-0593. Order now.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. A couple comments from viewers. First off, this is very poetic. I think it's an attempt at a Kamala Harris answer to a question. We don't know anymore. She doesn't have to answer questions. I'm so glad for debate. Debate is what we do. Debate we can do. The purpose is to debate. Who am I? Guess it's got to be Kamala Harris. All right, thank you very much. From Ken from Horseheads here. Frank, not a surprise that Liz Cheney endorsed Harris. The Republicans have rejected her, and she still has a huge case of Trump derangement syndrome. But Dick Cheney, who the Democrats portrayed as a demon in the Republican Party, and liberal pundits, when he had a heart attack, openly hoping that his heart would pop out of his chest, that was a surprise. I realize that Dick Cheney was a war hawk, that Trump called him out for that, and a good dad will stick up for his daughter, but him endorsing Harris is laughable and removes any positive legacy and credibility he had. Yeah, I was surprised by that. I understand. Tom Cotton said over the weekend with Dana Bash, which, by the way, is a side tangent. Dana Bash, I don't get the appeal. I'm not trying to be rude. I just don't see her style as being all that great. Did you? I mean, I saw it with the Harris interview, but I thought, wow, that was kind of a one and done, a little bit different. Then I watched it with Tom Cotton, just not overly impressed. But anyway, so Tom Cotton said, yeah, well, the reason that Dick endorsed Harris is because Trump beat Liz Cheney by 39 points, something like that. I'll quote it a little bit later on, but I think you're right. It makes me uncomfortable, and it's so we're so used to it. We really are as Republicans. But for Republicans to badmouth other Republicans, but to go to these outlets that said horrible, despicable things about Dick Cheney, like Ken mentions there, when Dick Cheney had a heart attack, some of the things that were being said were sickening. To go to those same outlets to give them the exclusive as they endorse Harris. Because remember, we learned last week that Liz Cheney is the most conservative Republican perhaps in history. Conservative Republican who then told you to vote for Kamala Harris. The media is so predictable. And the fact that they even get attention, and this is why they get attention. Republicans bad-mouthing Republicans. It'll get you this kind of media attention every single time. Because Liz Cheney, for whatever you want to say, is not relevant in the news cycle. So to get as much attention as she wants, go to any outlet that she wants, all because she did the one thing that the media craves, which is a Republican bad-mouthing Republican. But again, I don't think you can call them Republicans anymore. And to Ken's point, I think it does remove any positive legacy and credibility that Dick Cheney had. I was always a big Dick Cheney fan. I really was. And he has disappointed time and time again, and the same with his daughter. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. According to Axios, America now braces for a perfect storm of election chaos. And you know whose fault that is? All Trump's, all Republicans, all MAGA. There's no way that the Democrats would have a fit if they lose. I'm sure it'll just be peace. It'll be nice. It'll be, there's protests the first day Trump won the first time. But anyway, a nail biter like no other. In the 15 presidential elections since 1964, a candidate has led by more than 5 points in the national polling average for at least 3 weeks. In 2024, that hasn't been the case for a single day. The race is extraordinarily close, and we will come down to tens of thousands of votes in just 7 battleground states. One nightmare recipe for chaos: a 269 electoral college tie, which could trigger a contingent election in the House, whereby each state delegation casts a single vote. Trump would be likely to win in this case. I like how they always go to kind of the extreme things that could happen. I'm not going to go through all this because it's all about bad-mouthing Republicans and Trump, but that's Axios, who lost 10% of their workforce recently. New poll suggests Harris's support has stalled after, you ready for this, a euphoric August. Is Kamala Harris's surge beginning to ebb? That's a question raised by the morning's New York Times Santa College poll, which finds Donald Trump narrowly ahead of her among likely voters nationwide, 48-47. Now, who wrote this? I forget exactly. I want to say it was with the New York Times. Yeah, the New York Times. To me, the result is a bit surprising. It's the first lead for Mr. Trump in a major nonpartisan national survey in about a month. As a result, it's worth being at least a little cautious about these findings, as there isn't much confirmation from other polls. So now the New York Times is a nonpartisan national survey. Wasn't the New York Times the one that said they no longer have to be fair? It's all about getting Trump, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later on as well, because there's a story on Friday that we just missed. We ran out of time on the program, and so it's a little old, but I'm still going to mention it because it's worth it. But that said, it shouldn't be hard to explain if Vice President Harris's support really has faded a bit in recent weeks. After all, she was benefiting from an ideal news environment. An uninterrupted month of glowing coverage, from President Biden's departure from the race in July to the Democratic convention in August. It's possible she was riding a political sugar high. If so, it makes sense if she came off those highs in the 2 uneventful weeks since the convention. There's also a plausible reason the Times Santa poll would be the first to capture a shift back towards Mr. Trump. There simply haven't been many high-quality surveys fielded since the convention, when Miss Harris was riding high. There was a scattering of online polls this week, but there wasn't the traditional high-quality survey. All right. Well, do you think, I will say, when you don't give interviews, you don't do press conferences, eventually some people's eyes are going to move from the TV, from your website where there's no policy on there, and it could end up costing you a little bit of that euphoric high, that political sugar high. And Ryan King says it shows her campaign is fizzling. Well, there is no, I guess there is a campaign, but the campaign is to do as little as possible, say as little as possible, keep yourself essentially hidden other than scripted events. And to think there's, as far as we're aware, there is only going to be one debate unless something changes. Trump edged out Harris 48-47, as I mentioned. The poll mirrors the survey from late July when Trump led Harris among likely voters just after Biden dropped out of the race. Other polls have begun to show the 45th president regaining ground against his rival weeks after the DNC wrapped up. Trump's renewed razor-thin lead comes despite the fact that 70% of voters and 37% of those backing him felt the 45th president had uttered something they found offensive. Harris has surged in the polls across the board after getting jolted to the top of the ticket and captured the lead over Trump in the Real Clear Politics aggregate of polling. She also gained grounds in the battleground state polls, which still remain largely a toss-up. I'm not going to go through all the numbers exactly. But I think, listen, if you're not going to give interviews, if you're just going to give rallies, you're going to start to lose some momentum. Harris has constantly maintained that she is the underdog in the race and that she is taking nothing for granted. Her campaign has touted momentum, including her topping Trump in the fundraising circuit, which I mentioned last week. Trump and Harris are slated to square off tomorrow. It's going to be a long week, isn't it, folks? The debate will have the potential to dramatically shake up what appears to be a toss-up race for the presidency with about 8 weeks to go until November 5th. Yes, you heard me right. 8 weeks to go. That is amazing. We're going to tell you a little bit about some of the shows over the weekend, what some people had to say, like Bernie Sanders. You undoubtedly have heard what Bernie had to say. We are going to talk a little bit about Liz Cheney. Not much. I don't want to give. That's exactly what Liz Cheney craves. That's exactly what Joe Scarborough craves. Chris Christie, the Republicans that turn on Republicans, they love that attention because it's the only way that they do stay quote unquote relevant. They know that if they badmouth fellow Republicans, they will be put at the front page of every paper, and the CNNs of the world will interview them, and the MSNBCs, and who knows, maybe they'll have a future as a conservative on every panel on ABC or NBC or CBS. It's amazing. We have to take a break, though. Stay with us. We're running late. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking.
Brighten your smile this summer with Watkins Glen and Elmira Family Dentistry. With their summer teeth whitening special, you'll have a beautiful whitened smile without all the gimmicks and hundreds of wasted dollars. Their licensed dental professionals will apply the product for you in one of their beautiful and relaxing offices. Their materials are made in the USA and are prescription strength to provide an unbelievable result. Give them a call now to schedule your appointment.
It's stock up on your favorite New York wines at GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads. GCP Discount Liquors and Wines has the largest selection of Finger Lakes wines in the Southern Tier, all under one roof. Whether you're looking for Lakewood, Wagner, Wise, or Haslett 1852 Vineyards, GCP Discount Liquors and Wines is your convenient one-stop shop for these great wineries and more, all at the area's lowest prices. Shop GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads, the best in service, selection, and price.
What's up, guys? What I'm about to show you is going to change the way you shave your head forever.
You can shave your head in 90 seconds or less.
With no cuts or nicks. It's 100% waterproof.
It even works in the shower.
Introducing Remington's Balder Boss. With increased flex and 5 dual-track floating head design, get over 60% more head coverage for a faster, closer shave and skin-close results.
No nicks, no scrapes. Fit in the palm of my hand, and the results were amazing.
Shave in the shower or with any foam or gel. With Japanese-grade steel blades, plow through the thickest of hair. Anytime, anywhere. There's even a pop-up trimmer to complete your perfect groove. Now, you can try the Remington Balder Boss in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. Complete with a 5-year limited warranty and 100% satisfaction guarantee. You can also get our ear, nose, and brow trimmer free. Just pay separate processing and handling.
Give it a try. You won't be disappointed.
Order your Balder Boss now.
And welcome back to Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. So Bernie Sanders over the weekend says that it's pragmatic that Kamala Harris is always flip-flopping, always doing, depending on what outlet you go to, a U-turn on her quote-unquote core beliefs from back in 2019. Self-described Democrat Socialist Senator Bernie Sanders called Harris pragmatic. No, I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's trying to be pragmatic. My own view is slightly different. I think that in America today, there are a lot of people, rural people, working class people, who no longer believe that the United States Congress and government represent their interests. Too dominated by big money interests. Has big money ever played a more important role in a presidential election than this go around this year. Big money helped push Biden out and helped start the momentum for Harris. Harris had defended her past flip-flopping, telling CNN in her first major sit-down since clinching the nomination and last interview that she's given, she said that her values have not changed. There's a laundry list of policy items that Harris has reversed herself on, including a ban on plastic straws, a ban on fracking. She also softened on pushes for Medicare for all, mandatory gun buyback program that aides reportedly suggested dropping, the decriminalization of illegal border crossings, and a federal jobs guarantee. Now, if you recall back in 2019, GovTrack, which has now taken it down, but listed her as the most liberal member of the United States Senate, even further than Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders said bluntly, I would go higher than that. You've got three people on top owning more wealth than the bottom half of American society. You should substantially raise taxes on the billionaire class and the people on the top. So they said, you consider Harris to be a progressive. And Bernie said, I do. Look, she's not where I am. When she talks about building 3 million units of affordable housing, that's a big deal because we have a major housing crisis in America. When she talks about passing the Pearl Act to make it easier for workers to join unions, that's a big deal. I do consider her a progressive. So she's pragmatic. If you change your opinions to try to get votes, and let's face it, doing a 180 on fracking is 100% because Pennsylvania is a battleground state, swing state. So do you really think if she were to get in there that she would stay on these beliefs she has now? Would she go back to 2019? What do we know? And when is it no longer pragmatic? When is a U-turn not a good thing? Governor Shapiro, who many speculated was not chosen for her vice presidential nomination because he was Jewish at a time when, as Van Jones said, the Democrat Party is marbled with anti-Semitic bigotry. Well, Elisa Farah Griffin from ABC's, on The View, this was on Friday, asked, Kamala Harris is running a very different campaign than she did when she ran in the 2020 cycle. She's moving to the center on a number of issues. She's walked back previously held positions, like calling for banning fracking. She's gearing up for this must-watch debate with former President Trump on Tuesday. Do you think it's a strategic mistake that she hasn't explained some of those positions she's changed on more ahead of the debate? Because she's obviously going to get challenged on some of those on the debate stage. This is what, again, Pennsylvania Governor Shapiro had to say. Well, first, look, I think it's a sign of strength when you evolve on a position. And if you recall, when this first started happening, I used the term evolve quite a bit on this program because that's the term that is used. They used it with Obama. He evolved on gay marriage. He evolved on many other issues. That's what a Democrat does. They evolve on an issue. When Trump changes a position, he lied, whatever the case may be. It's never evolved, but I'll continue. Clearly, Kamala Harris has been listening to the good people of Pennsylvania when it comes to natural gas, when it comes to energy, and the fact that we're producing more energy in this nation than ever before, which strengthens our national security, strengthens our economy, and Pennsylvania is a huge part of that. She understands that. She has listened, and I think that's important. Look, I've changed my views on things. I ran in support of the death penalty. After being Attorney General, top prosecutor in Pennsylvania, I changed my views on that when I finally really understood some of the challenges in our system. I think that's a sign of strength. So it's pragmatic. It's a sign of strength to do a complete 180 from your, I guess you would say, core beliefs. And now we learn that she has a years-long crash course in foreign diplomacy. Well, as we had mentioned earlier, really all she's ever done is photo ops. Vice President Harris has met more than 150 world leaders since becoming vice president, but a July sit-down with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu felt different. Anyway, I don't want to go through all that. We got a lot more to talk about when it comes to Harris, about Trump, I'm going back to Ken's point. Were you surprised that Dick Cheney, not that Liz Cheney, but that Dick Cheney supported Kamala Harris? And why do you never see, you see some low-level Democrats, but why don't you ever really see Democrats do this? They're good at rallying around each other, right? You're not, and it doesn't help you professionally if you're a Democrat that turns on a Democrat. It actually hurts you very much so. You won't get those interviews anymore. You won't get invited to certain cocktail parties. It's the other side of the coin. If you're a Republican and you badmouth Republicans, you're now liked by the cool people in the media. You're now invited to cocktail parties. You get to make a name for yourself on MSNBC and CNN. I mean, Joe Scarborough's whole career was that. He was a Republican, when the Republican takeover. And just look at him now. Whatever's politically expedient. So to Harris, it's evolving. She's evolving. I guess Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney evolving as well into very conservative Republicans and telling you to vote Harris. But yes, they'll get a lot of attention because of this. And I guess that's what Liz Cheney wants. She wants to try to sell another book, maybe. Maybe get some more speaking slots on TV or on college campuses, because you can, as a Republican, bad-mouthing a Republican, but you don't get that when Democrats, and it happens so rarely, but when Democrats turn on Democrats. But we got to take another short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
You just have to get in the seat of a John Deere 1 Series tractor. Not because of how easy it is to use, or because of our expert dealers. Not even because it has implements for every job. You just have to get in the seat, because breaking ground on your dream home feels pretty great.
Right now at Lindsay Equipment, get up to $1,000 off and 0% financing for 60 months on all 2023 John Deere compact tractors in stock.
The bathroom of your dreams is only a phone call away with BCI Bath and Shower. We can make your ordinary bath and shower extraordinary. This is not a cookie-cutter design. This is a complete custom build that will fit your every need. It's never been easier or more affordable than right now to get the bathroom of your dreams. We have the best monthly programs in the industry with payments as low as $99 per month or no payments, no interest for 18 months with approved credit. The hardest part of your new bathroom is gutting and building the tub and shower. If your bathing area is old, there could be damage behind the walls and possible mold and mildew, which can be a serious safety issue. At BCI, we don't cover a problem, we fix it. Call now to get a never clean glass treated door with a no-track system at half off for the first 50 callers. Factory trained, certified installers made in the USA and discounts for seniors and military. Call 800-704-1798. That's 800-704-1798.
Jalen Milroe leads the new look Alabama Crimson Tide against Wisconsin. Then Heisman hopeful Dylan Gabriel and Oregon take on Oregon State. It all kicks off with Big Noon Saturday on Fox.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Hakem, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A good comment. Here's a good point. This is good from a different viewer before I get to Ken's. Wasn't Kennedy a Democrat, or could have at least been considered one, but you don't hear about it anymore? Yeah, I would say to your point, Kennedy, as far as I know, has always been a Democrat. But look, that didn't help his career when he's endorsed Trump. Is my point in this. So with Cheney, that will help their career. They'll get invited to parties that they didn't get invited to before. RFK Jr., it was the opposite. His family turned on him. The media turned on him. That one actor even went after his wife, saying she hadn't done enough to disavow him. So she could even potentially lose her job. But this is what Ken had to say. Frank, you mentioned Iran sending missiles to Russia, which made me think about the following. It's interesting that we endlessly hear about the 40,000 plus deaths, which include civilians and Hamas fighters in Palestine, from a very unreliable source, the Palestine Ministry of Health, which is run by Hamas. Yes, the fact that politicians and news outlets run with those numbers it's just propaganda, but I'll continue. But we never hear about the tens of thousands of civilians dead at the hands of the Russians in Ukraine. It's hard to even get figures on the amount of civilians killed due to Russia openly bombing civilian areas. Yeah, where are the people, to Ken's point, where are the people in the streets, as we're seeing with these pro-Hamas protesters? Where are the people demanding that Putin stop? I don't know. You don't seem to hear it much. Okay, David Hersani. I like when David Hersani has an opinion piece, so I wanted to mention this. In 2019, Vice President Harris told CNN's Jake Tapper that social media companies, quote, are directly speaking to millions and millions of people without any level of oversight or regulation, and it has to stop, end quote. Does it? Every two-bit authoritarian in history has justified censoring citizens as a way of protecting them from the menace of disinformation. But social media sites, contra to the reliably illiberal Harris, aren't directly speaking to anyone. Millions of individuals are interacting and speaking to millions of other individuals. Really, that's what grinds the modern left's gears. Unsupervised conversations. I thought that was such a good point from David Hersani. Take the Brazilian Supreme Court panel that unanimously upheld the decision by one of its justices to shut down Elon Musk's X over alleged misinformation fears. We must assume that the Democrat Party's presidential nominee, who once promised to ban guns via an executive order, agrees with Justice Alexandre de Moraes' decision to shut down social media platform for refusing to bend to the state's demands on censorship. I don't really want to go into everything that happened in Brazil. But I thought it was important to again, quote Harris, since she won't give interviews. As the late Supreme Court Justice Scalia once pointed out, every banana republic has a Bill of Rights. The question is, how close are we to being one? Uncomfortably close is the answer. If presidential candidates truly cared about democracy, they'd be advocating anti-cronyism laws and forbidding government officials from interfering with or pressuring private entities on speech. But these days, many Americans no longer view free expression as a neutral, liberal virtue worth defending. Foremost among them, apparently, is a Democrat presidential ticket, wanting to silence on social media. All right. How am I doing on time? I'm doing good. I got some comments coming in. We'll read them when we come back. There's so many things to get to. Okay, this is what I was going to say, and this is a little bit of an older story, but we've been talking about the media bias so much lately, and this came in late Friday, and I printed it out, even though I knew it's going to be old, but if you missed it, the New York Times editorial board member, Mara Gay, says it's, quote, a little silly for journalists to hold Vice President Harris to the same standards as former President Trump. Gay was a guest on Thursday morning's Joe, where the MSNBC host bemoaned the sacrosanct wall between editorials and news when it comes to the presidential candidates, adding how absurd it was to believe that there was a moral equivalency between criticizing Trump and Harris. Gay agreed the choice is obvious between the two, suggesting there need to be a different standard applied to Trump. Quote, I think the challenge, not just for journalists, but really for the country, is that not only is Donald Trump a threat, but, it lowers the bar. So I don't think it's unacceptable. And I think it's important for our role as journalists to really push every candidate for office. And there are plenty of things we could hear from the vice president that we'd love to hear about, more policy speeches. It'd be great for her to take more questions from the press. Those things are important. It's just the context is different because of the extremism of the Republican Party, because of how extreme Donald Trump is. It's hard to hold both candidates accountable equally, because one is committed to democracy and is functioning as a normal candidate and a normal American party, and the other is not. So a normal candidate that doesn't give any interviews, I see. So it's a completely different standard, because guess what? They don't like Trump. And isn't it very convenient that they've labeled him this threat to democracy, so they can say things like this? Well, one's a threat to democracy. So if someone's a threat to democracy, you don't want to hold them to the same standards as someone that promotes democracy. Apparently not free press, but so they don't even hide it anymore, folks. And so, This is really about the extremism of the Republican ticket. And it's important to hold all candidates accountable. It's just that when you do that, it does sometimes sound a little silly, because given the breadth of what the vice president is offering the American people, there is no comparison to Donald Trump. So yes, the breadth, just the amazing, we don't even know what policies, because she hasn't pushed them, so we can't say that, but the things that she is saying are so inspirational, so historic, that it's silly to compare her to Donald Trump. Donald Trump should be held to a different standard. Harris should be held to the standard that we're seeing now, which is a low bar, which is no interviews is fine. That's fine. Nothing that isn't scripted. No policy on her website. All of those things are hunky-dory because they don't like Trump. And Trump is a threat to democracy. So that there is what we're dealing with when we're talking about the media, where the New York Times editorial board member says it's silly for journalists to hold Harris and Trump equally accountable because one supports democracy and runs a normal campaign. I don't know how you can describe Harris as a normal presidential campaign, but whatever. Let's see. We'll just take her at face value. When the other one is a threat to democracy. So there is what we're dealing with in 2024 when it comes to the media. And unfortunately, I have a couple examples of that. We are going to talk a little bit about Trump's campaign. Got a couple things here, some New York State issues if we have a chance to get to them. A little bit later on, we're going to be talking with Kelly Mormon from the Bath VA, so you will not want to miss that. That's at the top, well, not the top, but at the second hour. Oh, as a quick reminder, too, since I have a second here before I have to go to break, don't forget tomorrow the Tri-County First Responders Park in Gang Mills it's holding its annual remembrance ceremony on September 11th at 11 a.m. at the park. This year, they'll be honoring Brandon Salyards of the New York State Police Department at Horseheads Barracks and firefighter EMT Bobby Joe Richards of the Canton Fire Department as First Responders of the Year. So do not miss that. The public is welcome. Phil Palmisano will be presenting, as well as representatives from O'Mara's and Langworthy's office. So don't miss it. Now we've got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Have you been unable to work for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more.
Call now, 844-617-0440.
Hesselsen's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hesselsen's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hesselsen's today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselsen's Hot Spring saltwater hot tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
It's a season of sharing.
Having a good time has always been my number one goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Here's a comment. There has to be a lot of money involved for the media if the Democrats win. Whereas if the Republicans win, the money disappears for the media. I'm not sure. I mean, if you look at the ratings, if you look at the advertisement dollars, it's not there like it used to be. I just read an article this morning how they're cutting back the late night shows. I know we talked about that a couple weeks ago. I really don't think, I think it's just that much about ideology. I think it's that blind allegiance to the Democrat Party, and very often to their detriment. I mean, if you look at, well, for instance, they support Harris, and Harris isn't helping them do their job with interviews, with press conferences. I don't think they care, because at the end of the day, it's all about their blind political loyalties. So I'm not sure. I don't think there really is that much money involved. I mean, there's taxpayer money that they always spend like wild, but I don't think it's really just the media wanting Democrats to win. Another comment, most politicians say whatever they think to get them in office, then conveniently forget. That's their core fear and Trump derangement syndrome because they know Trump will make good on his promises. Yes, we saw that back in 2016. And I remember how shocked and appalled they were that he was actually making good on the promises he said. Here's a question. Do you trust Harrison Walz to run a $7 trillion enterprise? Oh, by the way, good morning. Someone sent us a nice good morning, a couple waves. So good morning. Thank you. FreedomWorks senior economist Steve Moore discussed how Vice President Kamala Harris has claimed she will lower costs for American families. And I don't want to go through all this, but I think that's a very kind of intriguing way to put it. Harris and Walz want you to trust them to run a $7 trillion enterprise. The vast majority of the top Biden-Harris administration economic and financial advisors have little or no real-life business experience. Keep that in. All right. So Harris prepares for the showdown she's long sought with Trump. Did she? Even though she kept trying to change the rules, I'm not really sure about that. They already are trying to, and I have a headline here, that they're trying to downplay her performance, set that bar low. And, Trump, unfortunately, sometimes plays into that, setting the bar so low that the media doesn't really need too much opportunity to praise her. The most important moment in the race between Harris and Trump comes this week, says CNN, as the vice president prepares for what could be her only opportunity to directly confront a former president whose political dominance she has pledged to end. But isn't that really up to her? I mean, they could do more debate, so they can't act like it's her only opportunity, but it's also like they've accepted, when I say they, the media, that she's not going to do interviews. Some have even questioned if she'll do another interview after CNN's. Their Tuesday night debate is particularly important for Harris, who is battling to define herself in voters' eyes and keep up the positive momentum she's enjoyed since becoming the nominee. The debate at the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia will be the first face-to-face encounter between Harris and Trump, who are locked in a tight race. For Harris, it's a marquee moment to show Americans that she is ready to assume the presidency, a question very much on the minds of voters as the fall campaign intensifies. Look, it's time to turn the page on the divisiveness. Why am I having trouble this morning? Sorry, it was a long day yesterday with the Salvation Army benefit. I didn't catch up on enough sleep, I don't think. It's time to bring our country together, chart a new way forward. She says this like she hasn't been in office for 3.5 years. Trump, meanwhile, is eager to negatively shape voters' perceptions of his Democrat rival and halt the gains she has made since ascending to the top. Both Harris and Trump are offering themselves as change agents of sorts. Harris has pitched herself as a clean break from a bitterly divisive era of politics dominated by Trump. The former president, though, points to Harris's time in the Biden administration and says she bears the blame for inflation, high mortgage rates, and more. Trump's campaign and his allies have accused Harris of avoiding policy particulars. Why is it always Trump's campaign and his allies have accused her? Has she avoided policy particulars? CNN. Why is that Republicans attack? No, she has. It's not even on her website, policy particulars. But Trump's incoherent answer last week to a question about how he would make child care more affordable was a vivid reminder that the former president has long brushed aside policy details and questions about the practicality of his proposals. Trump has also lobbed racist and lewd attacks against Harris. Oh, boy. So every piece starts off as it's going to be something about news on CNN and just turns into an attack on Trump and his supporters. No surprise. I don't know what I was expecting. But the Harris campaign is already downplaying her performance before it even happens. We're going to talk about that. I mean, it makes sense. The lower the bar you set, the easier it is for the media to come back and say it was historic. It was the performance of her life. Trump was on the ropes. I mean, yeah. We can write it already, folks. I would even say you don't even have to stay up tomorrow and watch it because we know what they're going to say. But we'll tell you a little bit more about this in just a moment. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
I'm Marianne Kurt. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
The Bix website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Thank you for joining us. So the Harris campaign is already downplaying her performance before it even happens. That's what panelists discussed about the ABC News presidential debate. It was on the big weekend show. Tour de force aren't going to be what you hear from the headlines because the campaign's already downplaying her performance before it even happens, says Fox News correspondent Griff Jenkins. The Trump campaign offered for 3 debates, which is really out of respect for the American people and the voters, for candidates to earn their vote on Election Day. We've always had 3 debates, right? One is this format that we're going to see on Tuesday night. One is a town hall debate, and then one focuses on foreign policy. Harris was offered a Fox News debate, and she would not take that debate because Brett Baer and Martha McCullum are going to ask germane, relevant, tough questions. She wants no part of that whatsoever. Following suit behind the first presidential debate between Trump and Biden in July, mics for one candidate will be live at a time as they answer questions, while the other microphone will remain muted until it's their turn to speak. ABC News also reported that Trump and Harris will have 2 minutes to answer each question, followed by another 2 minutes for rebuttal, an additional minute for a follow-up, clarification, or response. Neither contender will be allowed to bring pre-written notes on the stage. And there will be no opening statements from either party, and closing statements from each participant will be limited to 120 seconds. Quote, these are the rules that the Biden-Harris campaign agreed to. And if I'm Donald Trump, I'm nailed this over and over again. If you're going to fix all the problems in the country that your administration created, why haven't you done it already? They own this. Trump is not the incumbent. Harris is the incumbent. That's what Donald Trump should hammer, said Joe Concha. And Fox News' Molly Hemingway said it is patently absurd to let Harris get to this point in the process with no real interviews, no real questions, no follow-up questions, and I anticipate that they'll be very pleased with her performance, no matter what her performance is. And that's a huge advantage that Democrats have over Republicans in this propaganda environment. Yes, they're going to say, even if she didn't, they're going to say she did wonderful, that she did great. That's why her campaign's already downplaying it. So the bar is set so low. But she's not going to be hit with the tough questions because she has no policy. She does not even have policy positions up on her website at this point. And she's running for president of the United States when, again, she has never received a single vote for said position. So don't the American people have a right to hear from her, whether it is 2 more debates, whether it is press conferences and interviews? It's shocking that the media, again, has absolutely no problem with this. And like Molly Hemingway said, because of the propaganda environment of the media, she's going to have a good night. You can write the article already. You don't even have to step and watch it. You know exactly what the media will say. All right. Wow. Where does the time go? My goodness. Hour number 1 is in the books. I see some comments coming back. When we come back, I'll read them. Kelly Mormon will be our guest a little bit later on from the Bath VA. This is a very important interview, folks. So if anyone you know has served, maybe give them a call and say, hey, don't miss this at 7:20. It's about suicide prevention month, which is September. And Kelly Moorman is the suicide prevention coordinator lead. So we're going to talk to her about that very, very important interview. In the next hour, I got a couple local issues. I'll show you a few pictures, a few photos from yesterday's Salvation Army benefit picnic that so many of you were so what's the word I want to use? I was going to say influential, but just so important to the success of yesterday's event. And I can't thank you enough. Really proud of how it all turned out. We had a great time. The weather cooperated. We had great food from Billy Spalding and Corning Catering. We'll tell you about that when we come back. As always, if you're new to the program, you can reach out to that number on the bottom of the screen at any time and weigh in on the topics of the day. Will you be watching tomorrow's debate? I believe most people will. What did you think about Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney's endorsement? We're going to talk about Trump in general, Harris in general, some local issues, all of that, and much, much more. I think we've got everything covered, all my housekeeping. Yes, we do. All right, stay with us. This is, frankly speaking, our number one in the books, our number two on its way in mere moments. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Our water's better tasting, it's better for the planet.
That's great, sir. Can I take your order?
Oh, number 3.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install our drinking water and softening systems, we're thinking about filtering contaminants and the minerals that make water hard. So you can just think about softer, cleaner, better tasting water. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
Now there's a product that sears food, stirs it, even shreds it for you. Introducing the Power Excel StirMax Multi-Cooker with a built-in auto stirrer that gives you the freedom of adding your ingredients and walking away and coming back to meals that cook up to 60% faster. No more stirring food. StirMax technology automatically rotates the paddle clockwise, then counterclockwise, so it stirs it for you. Powerful enough to even shred food. Then the 7.5 quart pot goes right to the table to serve. With a premium ceramic coating, nothing sticks. And it's dishwasher safe. Now you can try the Power Excel StirMax Multi-Cooker with lid and recipe guide in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. You also get the steamer and rice basket for healthy meals, StirMax serving spoon that snaps in place for easy serving, and $100 in free grocery coupons. We'll even ship your order all absolutely free. This is an exclusive TV-only offer, so order now.
Our number two of Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's get to some comments. First off, let me jump back here. A little off topic, except for Harris being from California and a liberal Democrat. I have now heard the most absolutely ridiculous excuse for all the turmoil in California from the LA Times. When Reagan and Schwarzenegger were in power, they fell short of correcting California's issues. And since Republicans are leaving a Democrat-run state in large number, there are not enough Republicans left behind to balance out the state's political differences. So California's issues are the fault of the Republicans. I can't wait till Hochul hears about this novel tactic to blame the other side for the Democrats' horrible policies in New York. Great point, Ken. That is hilarious in a weird way. Because Republicans are leaving. Wow. Okay, thank you. What do you think about American University historian Alan Lichtman's revealing his prediction that Kamala Harris will be the next president of the United States? Good question. I saw that announced a couple of weeks ago now. Seemed a little confusing to me. It seemed like he kind of had to twist himself up into a pretzel for that. I saw some criticism and pushback because some of the assumptions about incumbency and like that. It was odd. I don't really know much about Alan Lichtman. I know he gets a lot of credit for getting predictions right very often, but sometimes it's the popular vote, sometimes it's the Electoral College, and doesn't say which one ahead of time. So I don't know. It's just one of those news stories that makes the rounds for a couple of weeks. What are your thoughts? How about that? All right, another comment. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. I was very much looking forward to the Salvation Army event yesterday, but was sick. Oh no. I want to caution people that tick season is anything but over. I picked one off my arm about 3 weeks ago, and I've come down with a strain of Lyme. My public health tip to all, take a moment to check yourselves. I'm glad it sounded like a good time and a success. Boy, I'm sorry to hear that about ticks. Yes, that's terrifying, isn't it? Ticks are so prevalent anymore. So thank you for the public service. Let me show you a couple of photos. I didn't take as many photos as I should have. There's Assemblyman Phil Palmisano handing over the proclamation to Major. There he is giving a speech. And there's Mayor Bill Boland with us group. A few of us, not the whole group. So yeah, but we had a blast. I didn't get any pictures of the crowd. We had a great crowd. As always, great food from Corn and Catering. Anybody that's been to any event with Billy Spalding and Corn and Catering, you know the food is outstanding. And yeah, we had a good turnout. The weather was great. I wish I would have got more pictures of the crowd, but I was kind of running around doing some chores, if you will. So thank you, everybody who attended. Thank you to everybody who purchased tickets, whether you could attend or you donated them. I really do appreciate it. We also had the Elmira Impact, the hockey team. They were there to help. That was fun. So yes, we had a blast. And one other part to this person's comment, I really miss the Tommy Hilfiger store on Market Street. The new storefront showcases nothing I'm interested in buying. That's a very clever joke because some of the people watching don't know what that means. Well, the Tommy Hilfiger store is no longer the Tommy Hilfiger store. It is now the Democrat headquarters here in Corning. So I thought that was funny. Thank you. Who was it over the weekend? Oh, John Cornyn. That's right. From Texas. He was on Fox News Sunday, and they asked him about the upcoming debate. And Cornyn said, I think he needs to let Kamala Harris talk, meaning Trump. Something she's been reluctant to do unless she's reading a teleprompter. And I think, we have seen the polls very close. Mainly she's coming off of this, as James Carville called, a sugar high after the coup d'etat, which was committed against Joe Biden, and then, of course, the convention. I'm looking forward to a repetition of a good debate performance of President Trump and he had with President Biden. I think he is up to it. Fundraising is important, but so are the issues and qualities of candidates. We have an outstanding group of candidates running for Senate, and I'm optimistic about our chances of regaining the majority. I hope that they have enough money to defend themselves and to talk about what they are for and what they would do if elected. I'm confident they will. So what are your thoughts, John Cornyn? Oh, thank you for the wave. Is that the I kind of do want to see the Trump that was a very different Trump in that Biden debate, which was let Biden kind of dig his own grave, let him implode and step back. I don't know if he'll be able to do that with Harris. I hope he does. I just see him being maybe, for lack of a better term, more aggressive, more confrontational. But I'm with John Cornyn that let Harris talk. She doesn't want to talk off the cuff. That she's made that crystal clear by not doing debates. Keep in mind, debates from friendly media personality, she won't even do. I mean, look, I don't know if you watched any of Tom Cotton over the weekend giving an interview. Another more hate-filled questions from Dana Bash. You could tell that dislike, that anger at any Republican. It's amazing. All right, I know everybody's favorite topic, Liz Cheney. Of course, Jonathan Karl at ABC gave her an opportunity. And this is why she badmouths Trump and Republicans and gets her father to endorse Harris. Because remember, what the media continues to tell us is Liz Cheney, that conservative Republican. Yes, the most conservative of all Republicans, telling you should vote for Kamala Harris. Well, Jonathan Karl says there was a lot of talks during the primary of the Nikki Haley voters. And some states seem like even when she stopped running, almost a third of Republican voters were looking for an alternative to Trump and voting for Nikki Haley. She's now saying that she is, quote, on standby to campaign for Donald Trump to help him get reelected. She's also, of course, calling him unhinged, unqualified to be president, diminished. What do you make of Nikki Haley's position on this? Well, Nikki Haley's doing the same type of thing in a way. Cheney said, I mean, look, I can't understand her position on this in any kind of a principled way. You want to talk about principles? Okay. I think that, the thing that she said, that she made clear when she was running in the primary, those things are true. Again, those of us who are conservative, those of us who believe in fidelity to the Constitution, have a responsibility and have a duty to recognize this is not about partisan politics. The country is going to need to rebuild true conservative movement when we're through this election cycle. But this November, casting a vote for Donald Trump or running someone in means that you've made the decision in too many instances that so many elected Republicans have made, which is to abandon the Constitution, to tell yourself that this is just simply, a partisan choice. That's not what we're facing this time around. So you're abandoning, according to Liz Cheney, we need someone like Liz Cheney to rewrite true conservatism, the true conservative movement. Is it Liz Cheney? She wants to talk about principles. Unbelievable. She also said, just to double down, just to show you what a good conservative Republican sounds like in the year 2024, if you look at Vice President Harris's speech, for example, at the Democratic Convention, it is a speech that Ronald Reagan could have given. It is a speech that George Bush could have given. It's very much an embrace and an understanding of the exceptional nature of this great nation, a love of America, a recognition that America is a special place, a recognition that we all have to work together to ensure that, and you contrast, to ensure that we maintain it. You contrast that with what we hear from Donald Trump, again, on a daily basis, that America is a failing nation, that America is a laughingstock. The trash talk of the United States of America very much is part of the message that Donald Trump is pushing. So at the end of the day, I think it's important for people to recognize he's not a conservative. So now, keep in mind, Liz Cheney gets to define what conservatism is. Liz Cheney, the same one telling you to vote for Harris. She continues, the policies that we're seeing him put forward include, again, on an almost daily basis, this notion of embracing global tariffs, that he's going to impose 100%, 200% tariffs. That is fundamentally an anti-conservative policy. It's also a policy that I point out to my friends of mine who say, well, we're going to vote for him because of this economic conservatism. It will choke off global trade. Will likely lead us down a path that we've seen before, for example, in the 30s. Lead to, at that point, it was a depression. So Liz Cheney now defining what conservatism is, and boy, Kamala Harris. Now, I guess, again, we have to ignore what she's been saying since 2019, what her actual policies are. She now sounds, this according to Liz Cheney, like Ronald Reagan could have given the speech that Kamala Harris gave at the RNC. Well, Trump trashed irrelevant Cheneys. Did you see that over the weekend? Dick Cheney issued a statement Friday evening in which he portrayed Trump as an existential threat to the republic. So, where is it here? There. Okay, here's the quote from Trump. Dick Cheney is an irrelevant rhino, along with his daughter, who lost by the largest margin in the history of congressional races. They couldn't get Scooter Libby, who did so much for them, but was so unfairly treated, pardoned. I did it. He's a king of endless, nonsensical wars, wasting lives and trillions of dollars, just like Comrade Kamala Harris. I am the peace president, and only I will stop World War III. What Liz Cheney did with the unselect committee of political losers is unthinkable. She and her unselects deleted and destroyed all evidence and information. It's gone. Much of it proved that Nancy Pelosi was responsible for January 6th, didn't provide security. Cheney and the others should be prosecuted for what they did, but Comrade Kamala is even worse. Not happy. Okay, we got to take a short break. And we're going to see what Tom Cotton had to say about that. I don't want to spend too much more time on Liz Cheney, but stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Watkins Glen has always been that perfect blend of beauty and the beast. A blend of fast and not so fast. And this year, the playoffs come to the Glen.
There is a lot on the line.
A perfect blend of drama and history, of twists and turns, of thrills and chills. A perfect racing experience for the whole family. NASCAR Playoffs weekend at Watkins Glen. Get your tickets now at theglen.com.
Come explore the magic of Knapp Winery. It's the perfect fusion of wine, food, and panoramic views. This charming destination will delight every palate with a curated wine flight, wine by the glass, or your favorite bottle to share. Some special finds to try are Knapp's iced wine, dry rosé, and saperavi. While soaking in the view, you may want to enjoy a brunch, lunch, or dinner at the on-site restaurant. Book your experience at Knapp Winery today.
How many have you tried to clean a stubborn mess but end up with no success? What you need is the all-new waterproof Ruby Horsepower, the new cordless and rechargeable power scrubber that cleans faster and easier, guaranteed. Watch, baked on oven grease is no match. It blasts away dirt and grime in no time. The power comes from our rotating brushes, spinning at 350 RPM. The incredible torque fights calcium, mildew, mold, and more. Take Take it in the kitchen, where it busts through caked-on crud, or outside and tackle tough tasks with ease. Get your Ruby horsepower with 4 additional attachments, all for just $39.99. Great news! They're in stock and ready to ship. Due to high demand, only 2 per order. Order now.
Call 1-800-980-2344. That's 1-800-980-2344, or visit horsepowerscrubber.com. So call 1-800-980-2344 now.
Name something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Sharing the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big
I just ran upstairs. Sorry about that. You got a little extra stars there. I didn't get a chance to read everybody's comments, but welcome back. How dare Cheney compare a closed-door communist with Reagan? Also, wasn't Reagan once a Democrat? Good point. Yes, he was. Has anybody seen that movie yet? Reagan. I have not. I'm just wondering if anybody's seen it because I'd love to hear your opinion. I'm not sure why the facts that Kamala Harris avoids questions isn't enough to give pause to more Democrats to at least question this and consider why. Policies matter. Yes, I would think when you didn't have a say in who your candidate is, you would want more answers, right? You'd want more specific policies. Next up, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. I'll gladly trade the Cheney family vote for the votes of RFK, Elon, Tulsi Gabbard, and the Walls family. That's a good point. And you notice the discrepancy in coverage between Liz Cheney and RFK, Tulsi, Elon, Walls, especially the Walls family. Man, Dana Bash made it sound like Dick Cheney had the biggest role in the Republican Party today. I mean, it's amazing. Telling Tom Cotton, well, this endorsement's going to swing some people. Is it? I mean, I liked Dick Cheney when he was vice president. I'm very disappointed in this, of course. I mean, but again, I think Tom Cotton had a great point about this over the weekend when he was on State of the Union. Dana Bash said, I want to start with some of the endorsements that Kamala Harris got this week, particularly from former Congresswoman Liz Cheney and her father, the former Republican Vice President Dick Cheney. Cotton said, you have Dick Cheney endorsing a Democrat, and you have a Kennedy endorsing a Republican. I think what it tells us is that there's a lot of ferment in American politics, but in the end, endorsements are not going to make the difference in this race. So Bash just can't let it go. This is how you know that the difference in coverage when it's a Republican as compared to a Democrat. So Bash says, you don't think his endorsement of a Democrat with that kind of pedigree is going to make a difference with swing voters? So now, according to Dana Bash, I mean, I guess Dick Cheney has all the power in the world of the Republican Party. I mean, it's kind of laughable, really, at the end of the day, that she all of a sudden is defending Dick Cheney's power. CNN, these same places that hated Dick Cheney when he was vice president. McCann said, well, I mean, some of this is probably Donald Trump beat his daughter in her last election back 39 points. I think most Americans are going to look at this race and compare the records they have against the very unusual race. When you have a president who served in office, who brought good times to America, and you have Kamala Harris, a San Francisco liberal who has brought to America exactly what you see in San Francisco as well. She didn't like, Bash clearly didn't like when he brought up the fact of the 39 points that Liz Cheney lost by. But yeah, all of a sudden, Dick Cheney, Liz Cheney, very influential, very conservative Republican. So conservative that they're telling you to vote for Kamala Harris. We had another comment here. To follow the rules of the debate, which include no notes at the podium or contact with members of the campaign during breaks, Trump should require that ABC and a representative from his campaign check Harris for an earpiece, which would be easily concealed under her hair. If the Democrats could cheat, they will. Here's an interesting thought on this. I'm just going to say this, not to disagree with you or anything like that, but I don't know. People say, I wonder if they had an earpiece. I think an earpiece would be the most distracting thing. I've got to think there's better ways to cheat than an earpiece, because I don't know if you've ever tried to use one. These don't have sound coming through. I mean, they do, but not someone talking to me, I should say. I don't think I can handle it, if I'm being honest. I don't think that helps. Like I said, there could be other things. I don't think someone telling you what to say while you're trying to say it, I mean, you'd have to put a lot of practice time in. But that's just my personal opinion on it. So thank you for the comments. Tom Cotton, since we're mentioning him, also turned the tables on Dana Bash on guns. Tom Cotton turned the tables during an interview with Dana Bash, invoking Kamala Harris's past rhetoric on demilitarizing schools in a tense on-air exchange. You notice a tense on-air exchange because Democrats will not accept, the media will not accept the answers of Republicans. She talked about J.D. Vance lamenting the school shootings as a fact of life. The AP headline was later replaced after Vance's team and online critics deemed it blatantly misleading. Do you remember when they put that he just said it was a fact of life? Do you accept the school shootings like they are just a way of life now? Bash asked Cotton. Absolutely not, and J.D. Vance doesn't either. Cotton went on to praise the school officers on site who approached the 14-year-old shooter and took him into custody before highlighting Kamala Harris's recently unearthed comments about her support for removing police officers from school. Here's what we do know about the shooting, even if we're still gathering all the facts. It wasn't as bad as it might have been because there was a school officer on school premises that was able to neutralize the shooter. Kamala Harris wants to take police officers out of schools. She said it in the past. Now, the video from 2019 surfaced last week showing Harris declaring her support for removing police officers from school in an effort to demilitarize campuses during her time as a California senator. That's her position, Khan said. That's not surprising because she's constantly taken positions against law enforcement throughout her career as a San Francisco liberal. If the police officer hadn't been there, if Kamala Harris had gotten her way, many more students and teachers would have been killed. Tom Cotton's really been a force to be reckoned with lately, isn't he? Man, doing a good job. When we come back, we're going to be talking with Kelly Mormon about September being Suicide Prevention Month. We're going to talk to her. She works at the Bath VA or the Finger Lakes VA. Don't forget, on September 11th, the Tri-County First Responders Park in Gang Mills has a beautiful ceremony. I look forward, that's the wrong term, but it's just a special event. I don't want to say look forward to it because it's 9/11, but it's such a touching, moving, it's difficult, especially when TAPS plays, event that they put together. It's obviously Wednesday, September 11th at 11 a.m. at the park. This year, they'll be honoring Brandon Salyards and EMT Bobby Joe Richards of the Caton Fire Department, Brandon Salyards from the New York State Police Department. So that is on the 11th at 11 a.m. I wanted to mention that if you've never been to it at the Tri-County First Responders Park in Gang Mills, highly recommend it. Thank you for all the waves coming in, more comments coming in. We're going to talk with Kelly Mormon when we come back, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Introducing a brand new kitchen appliance that does all the work for you. A hassle-free solution that sears food, stirs it, even shreds it in one pot that you can set, then forget about, and come back to delicious, perfectly prepared meals that cook up to 60% faster without having to do a thing, except enjoy a little extra free time. From the trusted brand Power Excel, there's the StirMax Multi-Cooker, the revolutionary new countertop appliance with a built-in auto stirrer that gives you the freedom of adding your favorite ingredients and walking away. No more stirring food. StirMax is the one-pot solution that does everything for you. The secret is the unique pot shape and groundbreaking StirMax technology that's automatically programmed to rotate the paddle clockwise, then counterclockwise to help prevent jams and food from burning while infusing flavor. Powerful enough to even shred food. With large 7.5 quart capacity and lightweight, attractive design, the entire pan goes right to the table. StirMax features 9 different cooking functions: saute, slow cook, cook stews or soups, keep warm, steam and boil, cook risotto or rice. Plus, the multi-step smart presets, StirMax or BraiseMax, that sears and sautés food before automatically switching to simmer. With premium ceramic coating that's BPA, PFOA, and PTFE free, scratch-proof, and won't ever stick. Then the entire pan goes right into the dishwasher. Now, you can try the Power Excel StirMax multi-cooker with tempered glass lid and recipe guide in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. But it gets even better. You also get the entire bonus package absolutely free. You get the steamer and rice basket. For fresh, healthy meals, the StirMax serving spoon and ladle. It snaps right on top of your StirMax, plus $100 in free grocery coupons. We'll even ship your order next business day absolutely free. Plus, every StirMax comes with a 1-year ironclad VIP protection plan and a 90-day money-back guarantee. This is an exclusive TV-only offer, so order now.
The Bix website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We're broadcasting from the Hesselson studio, and joining me on Zoom this morning is Kelly Moorman. She's a suicide prevention coordinator lead at Finger Lakes VA. Thanks so much for being on the show, first and foremost.
Sure. Thank you so much for having us.
Well, this is important having you on because many may not realize that September is Suicide Prevention Month. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about Suicide Prevention Month in the Finger Lakes VA, what does that mean for you?
Well, certainly, I mean, it's not just 1 month for us that
right.
work in this field, but Suicide Prevention Month is really bringing about the awareness, really targeting every area that we can possibly get to in the month of September, mm-hmm. to bring that awareness out to everybody, and to let them know how they can help, and that you don't have to be a trained clinician to help somebody and possibly save a life. That it can be something as simple as asking someone how they're doing, or asking to go get a cup of coffee, just checking in, like we hear about buddy checks all the time.
Sure. Well, so that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that because we're going to talk about some of the programs you offer, but I was going to ask, someone like me who didn't serve, how can we help? So it really is just being friendly in a way.
Yeah, really just checking in and, checking on your neighbor, checking on your friend, checking on your buddy. Certainly if you did serve, checking with those that you served with if you're still in contact with them. Sure. But checking in on your best friends, your family members, your coworkers, your colleagues, your neighbors. Could even be just a smile in the grocery store, honestly.
Right.
For someone that you don't know. That could be just all they needed,
Yeah. Wow. It's pretty sad we have to tell people not to be grumpy.
Yeah.
Be friendly. But no, I think that it's great points. Now, how are some of the ways that you're spreading awareness about this?
Well, we across Finger Lakes, we're doing, certainly we're out in the community just about, our kind of running joke is we'll go anywhere and everywhere they let us go to talk about
sure.
this. But we're out at, local parks, at fairs, at, we have a walk that we're doing just among the staff, really, but about anybody that wants to join us on all of the campuses for Suicide Prevention Month on the 23rd to raise awareness. We're at motorcycle rides, we're at sportsman's raffles, anywhere really that we can go. So
well, that's great because it is so important, and it's nice to know that we can all help. But let's talk about some of the programs that you offer for those that are in need.
Certainly. We do, we have our outpatient clinic, and those are, we have several of them actually, Rochester, Canandaigua, Bath, Elmira, Wellsboro. We have many of them across the area that people can walk into anytime that they're open if they need help. We actually have now our Compact Act program, so if a veteran is having thoughts of suicide, they can go into any hospital. The community hospital doesn't have to be a VA hospital, and our team will get notified.
Oh, great.
And if it's if they're in that urgent suicidal crisis, it's likely that will be paid for by the VA. So they're recognizing that it's you don't have to worry about the cost, basically. Take that off the table if you're having those thoughts of suicide. We have, inpatient facilities that we partner with in Syracuse and Buffalo, too, if someone does need longer-term inpatient mental health care. But we have our domiciliary in Bath for those veterans that may need some help getting through mental health and substance abuse struggles or housing issues. All of those things kind of combined, too. So Those are just a couple.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
But, yeah.
But you hit on such an important point, especially when you're talking about going into really any medical facility. It in no way should ever be about the cost if you're seeking help. So how important is that program?
It's huge.
Yeah.
It rolled out just this past year, actually, so nationwide. So it's been a great thing for veterans to kind of know, I think. And certainly our Compact Deck social worker has been getting out and spreading the word to all the local hospitals too. And I think the hospitals are happy to take, to let veterans know that as well, and to partner. And then it puts that link too. So if they weren't engaged with VA care before, maybe we can get them enrolled in VA care too. Because we do know that our vets that are working with someone through the Veterans Health Administration are more likely to have that connection. They're seeing other veterans. Some of our staff here are veterans themselves across all the areas too. So they, and we're trained. I mean, we know about military culture. We know about, certain things that veterans are experiencing that maybe, the general public aren't. Some of the additional stressors that they've been through.
And I think it's interesting, and I've heard this been said numerous times in the past, that vets always look to help other vets, but they don't always look out for themselves, right? Have you found that to be the case?
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
I always go back to, my grandfather was Navy, and he was always told, pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Sure.
And unfortunately, that's kind of traveled through. We're trying to change that in the culture, change that whole culture that it's okay to talk about things and it's not a sign of weakness to reach out for help. So we're really trying to change that through. But yes, typically peer-to-peer has a very strong connection, which is why we do have peer supports, and we do try to hire those that are veterans themselves to work with other veterans. So
do you think, I know this has been a battle with so many different groups that I've talked to, not just for veterans, but in general, where there's a stigma, not just in the military kind of code, but a stigma in seeking help.
Yeah, there is that stigma. It is across the board, certainly.
Yeah.
Mental health, but yes, it is very strong, and certainly our military and a lot of our first responders as well.
Exactly.
Police, firemen, EMTs too, but so yeah, we like I said, we are trying to change that culture just to get it to not be something that's a sign of weakness. Like, it's okay to ask for mental health.
Exactly.
I will say, I do think one good thing that came out of the whole COVID thing was people started checking in with people and checking mental health.
Yeah.
So if there was a good thing that came out of that, it's that maybe now we're recognizing that mental health should be treated just like regular health.
Has anybody ever told you have a very positive attitude?
Yeah, we're not afraid to ask about a heart attack history or diabetes. Why are we afraid to ask about depression or bipolar or trauma history or anything? You know?
No, I totally agree in that. I know you try to raise awareness, to use that term again, that there is no stigma involved anymore. Going back to your point, and I do like that you found a silver lining in COVID, but that COVID opened up our eyes to a lot of things that perhaps in the past would have been frowned upon, and now you're saying, no, we all went through a lot, and especially those who served went through a lot in their whole careers. There's no shame whatsoever in seeking help.
Right.
So I'm glad that you're raising awareness on that. Have you found there are other obstacles that you face when dealing with getting those that need help?
Certainly the biggest hurdle is getting them to, admit, if you will, or to reach out for help.
Sure.
And sometimes that takes the families trying to, say, hey, something's different, like you're not the same anymore, or something's changed even since you've been back home.
Sure.
And there's a program called, Coaching into Care that family members and close friends can go and look at to learn about how to talk to their veteran about what's going on and how to help them get help. That's the big thing. Sometimes, certainly, it's transportation issues.
Okay.
So we always try to bridge that gap, certainly in our outlying areas for sure. Many of our veterans have transportation issues. Either they don't drive or don't have a car, or it's a long distance. So trying to bridge that gap, we're working with community partners if we need to for something that's a lot closer. So, working with our DAV and kind of coalitions and things like that we can do to get people where they need to be.
Now, one thing I know that you offer help as well is to families, correct?
Yeah.
Because that's got to be an extra level of stress on them as well, with the worry and the stress of their loved one going through so much.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we have the Coaching into Care program, which is kind of online, just trying to teach families or help families on how to talk to their veteran about coming in for help. But we can certainly do, we certainly like to involve the families when we're doing like safety planning and things. We want the family involvement. Sure. We want them to know, we want the veteran to know that they're vested too, and that it's not just them and they're not alone, right? Part of our safety planning is we ask who are your close family or friends that you're going to reach out to. So certainly having them vested in that too. We do have marriage and family counseling here as well. So that is another option that we can do if things have been kind of tense around the home with things going on with not only mental health, but even transitioning back from active duty too. We have our M2VA program too that helps with vets that are transferring back into regular culture, if you will, again, but coming back home after being away for any period of time.
So if someone is watching this and they feel that, okay, I need help, or I want to find out more about these programs you're talking about, or I'm a family member that wants to find out more, what's the best way to do all that to get all the information they need?
I mean, they can certainly reach out to us here at the VA, any of the suicide prevention coordinators. We are happy to help with that as well. There is also on va.gov /reach. There's a whole program about, there's a whole website actually about how you can help, what the programs are that are going on, how can I, get involved. Coaching into Care, like I mentioned, is another one that they can go on and look at to see how they help. How they can help talk to their veteran too. But yeah, they can always, if there's any concern at all about a veteran, a family member can call the Veterans Crisis Line as well. And they're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Certainly if they're in, the throes of attempting to hurt themselves, then we say 911, get to a hospital immediately. But if they're having some of those thoughts, or they're struggling, or they're in some sort of mental health crisis, or, very depressed or anything like that, you can certainly call 988 and press 1 anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Okay. Well, Kelly,
the crisis line is going to want to talk to not only to the family member, they're going to want to try and talk to the veteran as well, obviously.
Of course. Could you give that number again? What is it?
988.
Okay.
And then veterans press 1 to reach the Veterans Crisis Line.
All right. Well, Kelly, thanks so much for being on the show this morning.
Absolutely.
This is important.
Thank you for having us.
Well, it's an important message, and anytime you want to come back on, it doesn't have to be September, okay?
All right.
All right. We'll be right.
Take you up on that.
Please do. All right. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
Looks like y'all got a lot of stuff here in your water.
You're never gonna believe it, but this can filter up to 60 different contaminants from your water.
It's all about cleaner drinking water.
Dude, that's good water.
And that's good water.
Now that's good water.
That's good water, eh?
No matter where you live, there's a Culligan water expert nearby. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
How many times have you tried to clean a stubborn mess but end up with no success? What you need is the all-new waterproof Ruby Horsepower, the new cordless and rechargeable power scrubber that cleans faster and easier, guaranteed. Watch, baked on oven grease is no match. It easily blasts away dirt and grime in no time. The power comes from our rotating brushes spinning at 350 RPM. The incredible torque fights calcium, soap, mildew, mold, and more. Forget harsh chemicals. With just plain water, Horsepower can clean bathroom tiles and tubs back to their original shine and luster. It's a game changer in the kitchen, where it busts through caked-on crud. Take it outside and tackle tough tasks with ease. How strong is Horsepower? We took this distressed 100-year-old antique and restored it to like new with Horsepower. Amazing! Get your Ruby horsepower scrubber today with bonus scouring sponge for just $39.99. Save on buying batteries. It's powered with the latest rechargeable technology. But wait, you'll also get this stainless steel brush to make range hoods and gas stoves look brand new again. Yours free. And we're not done. You'll get this Smart Flex cone brush that fits perfectly into corners, tiny crevices on toilets and tiles, or hard to reach shower door rails. Yours free. And to top it off, we'll include this microfiber cloth to clean delicate surfaces and polish cars sparkling clean. It's also free. Great news! Horsepower is now in stock and ready to ship, but due to high demand, there is a strict limit of 2 per order. Order now.
Call 1-800-980-4241. That's 1-800-980-4241 or visit horsepowerscrubber.com. So call 1-800-980-4241 now.
And we are back. Thank you again to Kelly Mormon for being on the show this morning. September is Suicide Awareness Month, so I'm glad that she could join us from the Bath VA. Okay, a couple comments from viewers as we move along here. Call Adult Protective Services. Clearly, Dick Cheney being forced by Liz to endorse Harris is evidence of elder abuse. Did you also see that George W. Bush has no plans to endorse at all? That he, quote, has been out of President Bush retired from presidential politics years ago, so will not say who he or Laura will be voting for. Another comment from a viewer: as a Trump supporter, I feel alienated and shamed by the mainstream media. I feel that we are being manipulated towards socialism. I will say the media, well, you just see it with like Dana Bash in her interview with Tom Cotton, just the anger and and which proves to be wrong so often, the real-time fact checks, right? It really makes for an uncomfortable interview. And we know that the same pushback, well, it hasn't happened with Harris because Harris hasn't given an interview, but you don't get that same pushback when it's a Democrat surrogate. Another comment from a different viewer: President Trump recently made a statement about firing people in government and revamping free speech laws. I'm thinking he should not have said that until after he was president. That's a fair point. It's like using a stick to wake up wasps before you use a bug spray. That is a very good point. Another comment from Ken. Frank, Tom Cotton for president 2028. He has been very, very impressive lately, hasn't he? And just the way he handles people like Dana Bash and the others that he was on with Jonathan Karl, I believe. Him and J.D. Vance have both been, I think, really remarkable in the face of, really hostile environments. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., we've talked about him a few times, and his endorsement of Trump isn't getting the attention that maybe Dick Cheney's is. They now hate Robert F. Kennedy. The media now hates a Kennedy, which I never thought I'd say. He said he believes that Republicans have become, quote, the party of the common man. In a post on X, Kennedy said there's been an inversion now where the Republican Party has become a party of the common man, of working people, of the middle class, and the Democratic Party has become the party of Wall Street, the military-industrial complex, big pharma, big ag, big tech, the big banking systems, and all of what real Donald Trump calls the deep state. All right. Speaking of that, since the media makes such a big deal when it happens on the other side of the coin. Oh, hey, we got some waves coming in late. Thank you. Former California State Senator Gloria Ramiro, I may have mentioned this quickly on the show Friday, left the Democrat Party, saying, not the party I once championed. I am now another near lifelong Democrat who is joining the growing number of people, including key groups like Latinos, who are leaving the Democrat Party, Ramiro said. This is not the Democrat Party that I once championed. I do not recognize it anymore, and I cannot continue. I changed my voting registration today as the sun was rising to Republican, which has, under Donald Trump, become the champion of working people. So echoing there what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. saying, that Republicans have become the party of the common man. Yes, we are going through a couple things very quickly because we don't have much time left together. So get your last minute comments in. This was kind of interesting. I don't know if you saw this from the New York Post editorial board, but he didn't mean to make it public. But a Manhattan U.S. Attorney Office biggie has ousted the contempt that they privately hold for Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's purely political prosecution of Donald Trump. Covertly taped by an undercover righty, Chief of Public Affairs Nicholas Bias claimed the case as nonsense and a perversion of justice, accusing Bragg of stacking charges against Trump and rearranging things just to make it fit a case. Secretly recorded private conversations for a gotcha is slimy, and I would agree with that. But Bias's comments prove what Andrew McCarthy and Jonathan Turley have long warned. Bragg's case never made any sense to begin with. Well, he promised he was going to do it, right? That's what he ran on. Bragg twisted what should have been, at most, a misdemeanor into a typhoon of felonies by claiming Trump intended to defraud voters in the 2016 election when he repaid Michael Cohen in 2017 to cover his perfectly legal go-away payment to Stormy Daniels. Bias guessed the prosecution is all about Bragg's ambitions. Quote, he wants to be something, a mayor. I'm not sure what he wants to be, but I know he's not happy just being the DA of New York, of a New York county. That is, it was never about justice for Bragg, but scoring with Democrat voters and politicians. Bias stated more of the obvious. Democrats are obsessed with getting Trump because it affects his candidacy if he's a convicted felon. Yes, and you've seen those comments, and don't think for a moment it won't come up quite a bit during Tuesday's debate. The Kamala will be the prosecutor, and she'll go after him as a convicted felon. And Fulton County, Georgia, DA Fannie Willis case against Trump is a mockery of justice, he added. The whole thing is disgusting. Bias is now in clear-up mode, which is full-hearted apologies and excuses. Getting caught telling the truth won't help his career. I expect most of the legal community is silent out of similar fears. And never mind how badly it undermines the rule of law and public trust in the courts. Modern progressives like Bragg care only about power, and they're happy to tear society apart to win more of it. I thought that was oh, look at all these waves coming in. Thank you. All right, so, Melania's got a new book out. Do I have time to talk? Well, let's talk about that when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Hustleton's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hustleton's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hustleton's today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hustleton's Hot Spring saltwater hot tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hustleton's.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance. Plus, stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better, and it makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor or 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. A couple comments from viewers. Frank, thanks for plugging the First Responders event on Wednesday. Well, that's a perfect excuse for me to plug it again. Thank you. It's an amazing event every September 11th, and the time just flew. The summer just flew, so I'm glad you brought it to my attention. The Tri-County First Responder Park in Gang Mills will be holding its annual remembrance ceremony on Wednesday at 11 a.m. at the park, so don't miss it. I will be there. So many others will be there. I know that representatives from O'Mara's office, Langworthy's office, and I believe Assemblyman Phil Palmisano will be attending. So that is a very big event every year, and it really, I don't know, it's nice to reflect and think back and kind of, unfortunately, remind ourselves about September 11th. So thank you. And here we got another comment from a different viewer watching, Frankly Speaking, live from Keuka Lake. And there's the view this morning on beautiful Keuka Lake. So thank you for the picture. Might be a little chilly morning there this morning, I'm guessing. But it looks like you're having a nice time at the lake. So thanks for tuning in. Okay, so Melania has a new book that will be coming out. And she posted almost like a trailer, like you would for a movie, for on Sunday, where she quickly criticized the state of the nation under President Biden without directly mentioning the Democrat's name, insisting tensions around the world are elevated since her spouse was voted out of office. Quote, the 2020 election results changed our lives forever. It impacted our quality of life, cost of food, gasoline, safety, and even the geopolitical landscape. The country has struggled to combat inflation during Biden's tenure, while wars between Russia and Ukraine and between Israel and Hamas have gripped the world. Melania then argued the country is more divided today than ever before, while raising the alarm over concerns about free speech in the U.S. It has become increasingly apparent that there are significant challenges to free speech, as demonstrated by efforts to silence my husband. And we mentioned that earlier, with the lawfare, but also in this case, the gag order in the Manhattan hush money trial. Trial judge Juan Mercan extended parts of the gag order until Trump's sentencing after he initially enacted it over concerns about Trump's habit of attacking people involved in the case. He was then fined $10,000 for violations during the trial, was threatened with jail time if he continued. Melania ramped up promotion for her new memoir titled Melania. Good. Last week, she said she hopes to give readers the truth, claiming she's been a victim of misrepresentation during her spouse's time in the spotlight. As a private person who often has been the subject of public scrutiny and misrepresentation, I feel a responsibility to clarify those facts. Her book is available for pre-order and is set to release on October the 8th. It will be interesting to hear from her side. We know the media, when it's not negative on Melania, gives her really no attention. Even when she was First Lady, the fashion magazines and the like that always love having the First Lady on. Like we saw Jill Biden. What was it? I don't know if it was Vanity Fair. I can't remember which outlet posted about her right before Joe got kicked out. But she did not receive those front covers. Even though she's a former model, did not receive those front covers. I see some more comments. Oh, it's 61 degrees outside. Water temperature 66 degrees at Cuca Lake. Look, we've got our weather forecast. Thank you very much. It's chilly here. Elton John, this is weird. Trump got some praise from some unlikely people recently. Elton John praised Donald Trump's use of Little Rocket Man, the nickname for Kim Jong-un. Remember that? He called it brilliant. In an interview with Variety, the 77-year-old singer was asked how it felt when Trump nicknamed the North Korean dictator Little Rocket Man, alluding to his own hit song Rocket Man. He said, I laughed. I thought it was brilliant. I just thought, good on you, Donald. The Rocket Man, yeah. Donald's always been a fan of mine. He's been to my concerts many, many times. He added that he is friendly towards Trump and thanks him for supporting him. I've always been friendly towards him, and I thank him for his support, Elton John said. Yes, when he did that, I just thought it was hilarious. It made me laugh. I kind of forgot about that one. Little Rocket Man, Kim Jong-un. I'm surprised I asked him about that, by the way. It was revealed by Mike Pompeo in his 2022 memoir, Never Give an Inch. Trump apparently had to explain to Kim Jong-un what the nickname meant, as the Supreme Leader was not familiar with the tiny dancer singer. Trump then reportedly autographed an Elton John CD as a gift to Kim. That's interesting. Now, another person to praise Trump, which this is very interesting, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Now, if you remember, it was reported that The Rock was even thinking about running for president at one time. He praised Donald Trump's show of strength following the July assassination attempt, saying Americans wanted to see the moment when Trump stood up after being shot, pumped his fist in the air, and repeatedly shouted, "Fight." Saying whether you love Donald, don't love Donald, it doesn't matter. They tried to assassinate him. There's no room for that. Despite it being who we were in this moment, I still believe in my core that this is not who we are as a country. So him standing up at that moment, we wanted to see that. All right. Now, we've got to take another short break. Get those last minute comments in. We've got a couple quick New York. Oh, I meant to bring up one New York issue. We're going to be jumping around a lot in the next couple of minutes. There is a piece. I'm not sure if we're going to have a chance to get to it. Victor Davis Hanson put it together. I believe it was on Friday. So you may have already had it come across your desk. But it was called A Decade of Untruth, adding up the media's lies about Trump and Biden. This goes to what that comment from that viewer about being manipulated by the media. It's a pretty interesting piece. It's 3 or 4 pages. I would highly recommend it. For some 9 years, the media and the left have successfully fed the country a succession of rank deceptions and conspiracies. They did so because they proclaimed Trump too dangerous to be president, and therefore any means they employed to stop him were to be justified. And the New York Times said that over the weekend as well. If you recall, I just mentioned it on the program not that long ago, saying it's silly to compare Harris and Trump. And their words, and I'm paraphrasing, was that Trump is a threat to democracy and Harris isn't, even though we don't know Harris's policies, of course. They did so, and I think that's a very important point. They did so because they proclaimed Trump too dangerous to be president, and therefore any means that they employed to stop him were to be justified. And they're going to do so a third time in 2024. As they continue, they have all but destroyed democracy, ruined the reputation of the media, alienated the public, and embarrassed their country before the world. So that's Victor Davis Hanson. Wanted to get your opinion on that. But let's first take a break and keep those comments coming in. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
I'm Marianne Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me, to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-781-9990 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-781-9990. 1-800-781-9990.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Here's a comment from a viewer. The dangerous the Dems refer to is the danger to their agenda, not to we the people. Yes, it really is. At the end of the day, well, it's very much like Biden would still be the nominee if he were to be elected. It's not about his health. It's all about election and the power. Now, the GOP is going to do a Pennsylvania onslaught to all of our Pennsylvania friends as Democrats battle to keep a really difficult Senate seat. Senator Bob Casey is bracing for a GOP onslaught after a summer where he and his GOP opponent, David McCormick, have engaged in a brutal exchange of attacks in the marquee U.S. Senate race in Pennsylvania, leaving the race in a dead heat. Republicans are preparing to drop more than $100 million across the airwaves in the final 2 months of the campaign. Now, on the New York side of things, and we are going to rush a little bit, GOP must go on the offensive to win New York swing districts and expand the House control. So very much going through New York yet again. Keep that in mind if you want to get involved, maybe help some of these candidates. On Long Island, the GOP faced 3 crucial contests in the 1st, 3rd, and 4th congressional districts. Republicans notably flipped the latter 2 by just over 31,000 combined votes in 2022. I don't want to get into all of that. Here's another comment from a viewer. I think all we can assume about Harris's policies is what she has been and done historically, like being anti-gun, anti-fracking, and so on. In other words, once a liberal, always a liberal. Yeah, I mean, even Bernie Sanders saying, well, she's being pragmatic. She's changing her core beliefs. Is she really changing? No, she's saying she is to get votes. I meant to mention this earlier, and I hope I'm not running too late. I hope we can bring it up here. Congressman Langworthy, this is for our friends that were hit by the flooding. After touring the hardest hit areas and speaking directly with residents, it's clear that the southern tier needs support from FEMA to recover and rebuild from Hurricane Debby. Allegheny and Steuben counties have suffered millions of dollars in damages to roads, bridges, and critical infrastructure. These are communities that were still recovering from flooding in 2021. I urge President Biden to approve this disaster declaration request so we can deliver the support these communities need to get back on their feet and start rebuilding their lives. Thank you to Congressman Langworthy. Speaking of Congressman Langworthy, we're going to be talking with the congressman on Thursday, so don't miss it. If you have any questions for Langworthy, he will be joining us on the program on Thursday. How are we doing on time? Andrew Cuomo wrote an op-ed at the New York Daily News. You can find it at Empire Report this morning, offering his take on what happened with the COVID deaths. It's like 5 pages. The MAGA Republicans in Congress should stop the political games and actually do their jobs. Answer the question. What went wrong during COVID, and how do we make sure it never happens again? See, that's in reference to the fact that he is going to testify publicly on New York nursing home debacles, the deaths. It'll be September 10th, so tomorrow at 2 p.m. It'll be live streamed online, providing a high-profile national platform for the years-long saga surrounding the Cuomo administration's handling of the pandemic's darkest days. Cuomo previously testified about the more than 15,000 nursing home deaths in New York during a closed-door hearing of the subcommittee, which plans to release transcripts of that hearing and related testimony from top aides. If you want to live stream tomorrow's hearing, it is oversight.house.gov. Oversight.house.gov. According to the Republican National Committee, so take it with a grain of salt, they researched and found that President Biden, who spent yesterday his 16th straight day on vacation lounging on the beach, he has spent a total of 532 days on vacation, which averages out to 40.3% of his presidency. Now, again, it's Republican National Committee, but maybe worth mentioning it. Well, that does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you to everybody who joined us. Thank you for all the great comments. Thank you to everybody who made it out yesterday to the Salvation Army of Corning, their picnic. It was a blast. We had a really good time. The weather was really good for us. But thank you to those who couldn't make it but still bought tickets or made a donation. We had a few people come up even the day of and, hey, I can't stay, but here's some money. And it was a very successful event. It's exactly what we needed for the Salvation Army, and we'll probably do more in the future, but I do appreciate everybody, and of course Corning Catering and everybody who attended. All right, that does it for us today. Make sure you tune in every weekday morning starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV Big Fox. We will see you tomorrow morning bright and early. I look forward to it already. Have a great day, everyone. We will see you tomorrow, and remember, you can keep commenting. Those comments are 24/7. All right, talk to you tomorrow.